I'm Christine Bujorquez. This is Crash Course Education, and today we're going to begin our extensive look at barriers to learning by understanding the magic behind teaching ESL students.
Christine, I'm sorry, but are you saying that students don't always bring their 1000% to the classroom?
Yes, exactly, Isabella. There are many factors outside of the classroom that students undergo, but teachers must learn to work around them. There are many barriers to learning, and some students may experience more than one. But if you want to learn to be a good teacher outside of just your lesson plans, then in a nutshell, an ESL program's aim is to educate ELL students in a way where they can improve their English language proficiency and meet academic course standards. For the purpose of facilitating student learning, every school district is required to have a program for students whose dominant language is not English. There are many different ways that this can go, though. ESL, or English as a Second Language, students can be pulled out of a normal classroom by an ELL teacher to work on English proficiency in reading, writing, listening, and speaking. This pull-out system usually works on younger ESL students. However, students in grades 9 through 12 are offered a course at their high school where the students improve their language skills in order to be successful in other academic courses. Amongst a few others, there's also bilingual education, where students learn in both their native language and their second language. But these classes are all dependent on the student's proficiency in the language. I mean, imagine you only knew 3 words in the English language and yet you got placed in an ESL 3 class. You would be pretty lost. So, the type of instruction and support for constant learning is all dependent on the student's proficiency level. Let's go to the thought bubble.
Excuse me, Mr. Green. Why does my friend Jacob get pulled out of class every day? Well, the teacher that pulls him out is an ESL teacher. She teaches him English because he doesn't know it too well. That's why he speaks to you in Polish. But they've been taking him for almost a year and a half. How hard is it to learn English anyways? I knew it right away. Well, that's because English was your first language. But to him, it can take a while before he's at the advanced fluency stage. That's the stage when English learners have an extensive vocabulary and begin to feel comfortable with English, just as in their native language. Wait, how many stages even are there? There are around 5 stages, and each covers the number of words each English learner has in their vocabulary. Jacob is most likely in the speech emergence stage, where he knows about 3,000 words. So, if I say 3,001 words to Jacob, he will understand that last word? I mean, not necessarily.
Thanks for that information, Thought Bubble. Students in these different stages of proficiency are assessed through their result on the WAPT and or Access for ELLs. Both these tests are designed to test ELO students in their reading, writing, listening, and speaking skills in English.
Christine! If ELL students have to go through all of these tests in order to get placed in their classes, then what about teachers? What makes them qualified to teach these classes?
Great question, Magda. Basically, any person with a bachelor's degree, a standard certificate as an ESL teacher, and content area expertise in ESL can teach ELL. Teachers working at the middle/high school level generally acquire expertise in ESL through either an undergraduate major in ESL or 30 credits equivalent to a major or graduate degree in the content. These educators do not need to speak a student's native language unless the class is specifically in bilingual education. So, you can have a Hungarian educator in a classroom where not one student is Hungarian. Content area teachers aren't necessarily required to have any special qualifications. However, they should modify instruction to meet the needs of specific students. Let's take a look at the specific teaching styles educators should adopt. Isabella, why don't you show us?
As a teacher, you should make your language more digestible and enunciate your words so that students can understand what you're teaching about and grasp the concepts better.
What sound does P make?
Okay, as you can see here, P can be used in the word pan. And in the word pan, it makes the P sound. Repeat it. When I say enunciate your words, I don't mean dumb it down. This can make your students feel stupid and discourage them from learning.
Can you help me?
What do you need help with?
What sound does V make?
V is used in words like van. Can you say van?
Van.
Do you understand?
Yeah, why wouldn't I?
What sound does V make?
V.
To accommodate these students' learning processes, teachers should cater to sensory aids with visuals, flashcards, graphic organizers, or even audiobooks. Not like these. Audiobooks that students can listen to on the computer and hear what is being said to them. Extended time and peer tutoring could also help for these students. The complete opposite of what you should be doing is standing in front of the class and lecturing with your only visual aid being the textbook. This can bore students and discourage them from wanting to learn. Okay, class. Today we're going to learn about the application of definite intervals. Hey! Why are you asleep in my class?
What?
Thanks, Isabella. But how is this put into practice? Let's go to the mystery document.
The rules are simple. I'm going to read a document and you're going to take a guess as to what the main question being asked was. Differentiated instruction, for example, providing lower level students with questions that will be asked beforehand so they have an opportunity to process the information and participate more readily. Trying activities using role plays in pairs or small groups, using sentence strips for beginner and intermediate students, using graphic organizers, presenting information in varied ways, oral, written, demonstrations, repeating and paraphrasing important terms, and doing activities where students can interact and move around. Let's see. She's describing different accommodations she puts into practice in her classroom. So could the question be, what accommodations do you practice? No, it was, can you describe your approach to creating assignments? Man, I'll get it next time. Let's go back to Christine.
Wait, I have a question. Christine, how do teachers afford these resources anyways? Actually, how do schools have the funds to implement these programs?
Well, Isabella, regardless of anything, schools get their funding from local property taxes, aid from the state, and the federal government. As for ELO programs, most schools fund them through a state funding formula or a categorical program. For instance, in New Jersey, the School Funding Reform Act in 2008 was created to aid specific categories: special education, extraordinary special education, security aid, transportation aid, school choice aid, adjustment aid, and adequacy aid.
Oh, that makes sense now. Wait, what's that, Magda? Time for the interview segment? Let's go.
Hi guys, welcome to our interview segment. Today I'm here with a teacher at Garfield High School.
Mr. Burns,
How long have you been teaching?
13 years.
What subject matter do you teach?
History, specifically U.S. history.
Okay. So, can you describe your teaching style, and would you say that this teaching style could benefit students who are English language learners?
Sure, absolutely. So a lot of the basis of my teaching style is centered on taking complex ideas, complex historical ideas, and simplifying them down to understandable themes. So if we talk the American Revolution, that is thematically about power. It's a struggle between power and control, or influence and control, and independence, and all those other concepts. So when taking a complex idea and shrinking it down to simplistic concepts, then you can use things from a student's native language to describe that, right? So maybe we're in a predominantly English-speaking classroom, I might just use regular examples from the Industrial Revolution, the American Revolution. For an English language learner, I might use something from their culture to say, okay, do you know this particular cultural story? What is it about? It's about power and control. Okay, perfect. So take that theme, apply it to this complex historical topic of the American Revolution, and more often than not, they're able to get it. Beyond the language barrier, right? As a concept, right? Language barriers, there's many platforms to use to help translate and all those things. But thematically as a concept, those are things that are universal beyond language.
Thank you. And then, how important do you think it is to adapt to different cultures and languages inside of the classroom?
So critically important only because every single thing two reasons. One, those things can be a hindrance in the sense that they could be roadblocks to understanding a concept, right? So if there's a particular cultural idea or cultural norm that is so ingrained in an individual that when you just are dismissive or you try to move past it, they might be stuck on a moment and say, but wait a minute, no, that's not how I define a concept. That's not how ethnically, culturally, religiously, or whatever, right? We think about this idea. So that's one, it can be a roadblock. And two, it can also be the fast lane, the fast pass, the easy pass, right, to get to unlocking some kind of idea for an individual. So utilizing culture within a classroom absolutely can be critical. I mean, the obvious examples are like, on SAT testing where this can be a roadblock. There are certain cultures that do not consume tea with a cup and a saucer. So when you ask a question like a cup is to a saucer as a blank is to a blank, well, they don't know what those two terms mean. So that's a roadblock. If we look at then how things can be a fast lane, they did, there's a study they did with students who were predominantly of cultures of the indigenous people in Alaska. And when they were teaching them geometry and they were teaching mathematics, they used fishing racks, which was something from their culture. They're catching fish, they're drawing the fish on the racks, and they used the shape of the racks to teach them mathematics concepts based on elements within their culture. So short answer, two things. Can be a roadblock, can be a fast pass for their education. So yes, absolutely taking those things into consideration would be absolutely paramount for a teacher.
Thank you so much, Mr. Burns. Hi guys, today I'm with Miss Mobilio, and she is a reading specialist at Garfield High School, and we're going to be interviewing her about both if a student is ESL and special education. So, Miss Mobilio, do you think that when ESL comes into the mix, ESL ends when special education begins, or that they can work together as two separate criterias?
I think that they can work together, but it will depend on the student as far as what level of their first language that they come into the school with. So if they have that established structure so that they know how language works, then they'll pick up the language in the same manner that a special ed student would be learning. So if they're ESL and they're special ed, the techniques that are used for both are very similar. So it will depend on what level the student, is at in their first language.
Okay, I agree. And then how do you think you can aid a student's cognitive development when they are both in ESL classes and in special education classes?
Well, the instruction techniques for both ESL students and special ed students are very similar. They need support to make the materials accessible for them in many different modalities. So you want to reach them visually, you want to reach them in a tactile manner, you want to reach them through their hearing, and visual actually turns out to be very important for many because for an ESL student, pictures help support the English words that they're seeing, and then if they have the background for their first language, it all can make a connection. And with special ed students, they also need that multiple modality for learning. And if you expose them to information in this manner, so they're hearing the readings, they are watching videos about certain items that they're reading about. If you discuss it, there's the language aspect for an ESL student. That's how you improve their cognitive ability.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ms. Mobilio.
Culture is something that makes us up. It isn't necessarily where we came from, although that can come into the mix as well. It's what connects us as individuals. ESL speakers lack a major part of connecting with other English speakers, actually speaking English. Because in the end, these students are categorized as being that ESL kid, and this affects their self-esteem. Missing out on such a huge part of life in America can be doable, but difficult, and most likely feels very isolating. So, as educators, as parents, and as students ourselves, we should look towards ESL as a way for students to gain a part of our culture and to share with theirs. English language learners are just like any other student, and they deserve the same respect and opportunities as others.
Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week. Crash Course is produced and directed by Isabella Benzinker, Christine Bojarco Delgado, and Magdalena Pobiarson. The script supervisor is Isabella Benzinker. The resources used were Wilkes County Schools, Egentopia Phillipsburg Osceola, the official New Jersey website, and the Teachings and Education YouTube channel. The Crash Course supervisor is Miss Milia Kata. Crash Courses are produced every week. Go check out our other videos on education. Thank you for watching Crash Course, and as John Green says, don't forget to be awesome.